Welcome, everyone. This is Michael Gibbs. Can you all hear me today? Someone could let me know in the comment section. Welcome, everyone. It looks like there's a few people there. Can you hear me? Could you guys let me know? I'll type it in. Hi, Peter. Hi, Dennis. Peter, thank you for letting me know I can hear you. Makes a huge difference. So obviously, we're going to get a few more people that are going to come. We typically get around 30 to 50 people on these calls. And generally speaking, I would start and wait, but there's some folks here. So hi, Ez. Good morning. Or actually, I should say afternoon, evening for you. And does anybody have any questions to kick off today's discussion? It could be anything related to your cloud computing career. It could be what to do on an interview. And by the way, I released a new interview video today. I will drop the link in here. And these are questions that you definitely want to be able to answer if you are interviewing for a position, because these are the way that we hiring managers would ask some relatively deep technical questions that look relatively easy to answer. And we do this because it gives us an understanding of someone's capability, someone's honesty, someone's ethics, someone's ability to work as an architect and communicate across boundary lines of engineers, architects, and such. So, and Peter, it really is a privilege to have you guys listening to my content. I work very hard to assist the cloud architect community achieve their goals. I know what it's like to come from another industry and then switch into tech. I used to practice medicine, and then I found myself in tech, and boy, that was one of the best experiences of my life. One thing that I will say is, for those of you that do not know, and many people do not, we decided to make our AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate training completely free for the world. I'm going to drop a link to that video. Hi, Avishi, and here's our link to our free full AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate training. We put out the full, basically 6-hour course, and we made it free. And we also decided to give you guys a companion ebook. So you've got a complete book, and you've got a complete online course. So you should be able to do your AWS Certified Solution Architect Associates exams completely free. And then if there's other things, we'll let you know. Our team, to let you guys know, are working on an AWS Certified Solutions Architect Advanced Networking one, and our team is building an AWS Advanced Security one. I've got a really brilliant team of people that are working on this. We're going to release these books completely free in about 2 months. So if you're not on one of our mailing lists, please join one of our mailing lists by ordering an ebook, for example, and we'll inform you as soon as that's available. Now, Peter, I see a question. You're doing professional security and networking at the moment. I don't exactly know what you mean by that. So, Peter, could you do me a favor and tell me a little bit about your background and what you're working in or not working in, or what you went to school for? And then from there, could you tell me what you mean by professional security? Is that like a CISSP or a CEH? And then you said networking. Could you let me know what you're doing with that? Is it like a CCNP, or is it something different? Could you let me know what your goals are, Peter? And I'll do anything I can to help point you in the right direction. Okay, they're all AWS. Okay, Peter, what's your goal? Like, what would you like to do? You've been in IT for 20 years. Okay, this is excellent. Have any of them been in networking or data center? Architecture, great, but architecture of what? Networking, data center, software. Cloud and server operations manager. Okay, so I'm going to ask you some clarifying questions to that, Peter, because that could be a phenomenal background. Server operations, were you someone that was setting up virtualization in containers and managing them in the data center? Meaning where you involve, okay, so you've got some deep infrastructure background. That's fantastic. So did you do any networking things as well? And do you have a Linux background or a Unix background? Okay. I saw a yes. So if that's Linux, Unix, and you've done some networking, you've got some server virtualization. Okay, is that correct, Peter? I want to make sure I've got this background completely correct. A little networking. Okay. But how about Linux and Unix? Have you got some time exposed to that, Peter? Mainly Windows. Okay. So, and what's your goal job on the cloud? Is it cloud security? Is it cloud architecture? And lots of Linux and less to use. Fantastic. Or is it like IAM, or is it DevOps? Where would you like to be on the cloud, Peter? And then we can give you some real good recommendations, because now we're starting to have some information. Architecture. Okay, excellent. Peter, do you have the Certified Solutions Architect Professional at this point, or the GCP Professional Cloud Architect? I wouldn't want to work in DevOps either, but there are people that enjoy that. So, Peter, what certifications do you currently have? Working on Pro now. Okay, good choice. So the first thing that I would do if I was you is to work on the Certified Solutions Architect Professional. You have the associates, which is good. In your particular case, if you've got 20 years experience and a lot of it is on containers and virtualization, you're really already in some pretty solid positions. I haven't spoken to you, so I haven't heard the way you communicate. And if you desire to do that, I would love to be able to do so. I will give you access to the link of one of our free webinars where we actually will be able to answer questions real time and live for anyone that wants to be here. And because I can't really ask you the questions on YouTube, but I like to be out there on YouTube to help some of my students. And I love YouTube as a platform. So I would say definitely get the professional. Now the question becomes is, what do you want to do next? If you want to do for predominantly architecture, the professional with your 20 years of experience is quite strong. If you've got a good Linux background, that should be enough for you. If you had less experience or told me that you wanted to do something in the cloud that was more related to security or more related to infrastructure, I would start looking for some type of security certification for you. And it most likely would not be one of the AWS Advanced Security things. For example, it is not a bad certification. It's a good certification. It knows that you know how to do basic security things on the cloud, like the AWS Advanced Security. And that's great. But it doesn't teach you anywhere near enough to design a security architecture. That would come from something like the CEH or the CISSP. Likewise, for people that want to do heavy networking, we say the minimum would be a Cisco certified network professional, the AWS Advanced Networking, even at best. And we built an entire training program for it. We just chose not to actually use it. And even then, building a full curriculum, it's still an intro to junior level networking compared to the Cisco side when you're dealing with the AWS Advanced Networking, because AWS does the majority of it for you. But to really do something on the infrastructure side, you're going to have to know how in depth to actually tune and manipulate traffic engineering. So Peter, if you love security and you have lots of friends that find it stressful, you got to do what you love. And I worked in security. I didn't think it was stressful at all. But that was me personally. What I find stressful is trying to write a shell script. I don't enjoy doing that, and that would cause me stress. And yes, I've done it in my life, but I absolutely hate it. I found security to be one of the most relaxing, enjoyable things that I've ever done. And here's what I like about security. First, just to let you guys know, the more things that go in the cloud, the more security becomes important. Two is our constant, literally almost daily attacks on people's systems on the AWS cloud. It is not that the AWS cloud is bad. It's not. It's a great cloud. It's that most people don't understand the underlying technology that they're using and how it works and why it works and how to use it and how to architect it. And because of that, we get so many configuration errors. Anyone can configure the cloud. Anyone. When we do our lab videos, I borrow my friend's beautiful 8-year-old daughter. She's really cute. My cat's near her. She does the configuration and I voice them over, because anybody can go click, 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 click. That's not the challenge in architecture, and that's not even the job of an architect. The challenge is saying, okay, I've got 196 servers that need to be migrated to the cloud. Okay, I need 196 instances. These servers need a certain amount of IOPS. Okay, what kind of offering can I do for that? How do I build a database and make it scale? That's an architecture thing. How do I create high performance, high availability systems? That's an architecture thing. What type of storage should I use under XYZ situation? That's an architecture thing. So the key really is understanding, what the challenge is. So if you like security, Peter, do security. You get that certified solutions architect professional and a CEH or a CISSP, you will have a career that's unbelievable. The key is knowing where to work, how to work, and why to work. And then before I get to the next person, but I will ask you any more questions. It's not necessarily the stress that's actually the problem. It's how we internalize the stress. So I'm going to say that again. Stress is not the problem. It's how we respond to the stress. There are types of people that have really great attitudes that can be placed under load, and more load. And for them, it's relaxing and fun. There are other people that get stressed very easily. I never found security stressful at all. I found networking for banks more stressful because, when you're designing a system and for a bank and there's outages, even for a second, people get really frustrated. So, the perception is that gets stressful, and I still don't get those stressful. So Peter, it's about you. If you're good with stress and you're mellow, you can do anything you like. And if you love what you do, it'll be easy. And if you know what you do and develop some expertise in what you do, it'll never be stressful. I'm stressed. If somebody were to ask me to give me a presentation on something that I knew nothing about, well, first I wouldn't do it because I wouldn't try and pretend and not help my clients that are watching the presentation. But if I were to have to, that would make me stressful. And it's been my experience coaching people that they get stressed when they don't know all that they need to know, and they know that. So I think it should be great. If you love security, do a CISSP or a CEH along with a professional cloud architect, and you will have an unbelievable career. Don't forget to work on soft skills, executive presence, communication skills, and all those other things. They make a big difference in your salary and hireability. Training emotional intelligence alone, for example, equates to a $29,600 improvement in salary alone. And soft skills, communication skills, executive presence means so much for the career of the architect. So don't focus on that. But otherwise, Peter, you should be great. Now, I see there's another question. Before I get to that, did I answer all of your questions fully, Peter? Okay, wonderful, Peter. Now, the next question comes from Yathath Ara. I have 3 years experience, which is great, of about 3 years data analyst. Oh, Peter, you're more than welcome. And you would like to be a full stack data analyst. Don't know whether that's a term that's professionally thrown around. Not usually, but that's okay. I know what you mean. But your aim is not to learn just data analytics, but to be the data guy who can store ETL, provide BI, as well as support to business units. To this end, you're pursuing the GCP Professional. Well, Yara, I got to tell you, I love the GCP Professional exam. It is a terrific exam. I took it myself. It was my first cloud architecture exam that I took. What I liked about it, it was case study oriented. It was quite good. Now, the professional cloud. Oh, okay. Oh, you're working on the data examination. Okay, great. Now, Yaris, do you have a basic architecture certification from Google Cloud that you're working on? Or do you have any other big data experience with data analytics tools, data warehouses, data lakes, advanced statistics and mathematics, that kind of thing? Do you have a machine learning background or data science background? Nope, just straight into this. Okay, what is it you do in your current career? Thrilled that you're proficient with Python and SQL. That will actually be a big help, especially if you're trying to do some machine learning scripting. So what is it that you've been working on, though, in your current career? Okay, so are you doing data analysis for like one of the big four tech companies with like management consulting? Because if so, that would be great. And in your current role, are you evaluating big data? Are you using like ETL tools to manipulate and finesse the data so that then you can run business analysis and business intelligence tools? Is that currently what you're doing, Gareth? Not the big four, though. Okay, that's fine. But is that do I have the job correct that you're actually doing? Stella, you are so welcome, and thank you so much for watching my videos. We do everything we absolutely can to try and work with the cloud architect communities. I'm close. Okay, Yara, please tell me what I'm missing so I can give you the best guidance. And also, Yara, do you have any experience with like PyTorch and TensorFlow and all these other machine learning type things? Okay. Okay, Yara, those last few that I was asking about, like the PyTorch and the TensorFlow, they would be, for example, the way you would do basic machine learning. So typically speaking, if you had a Linux system, it would be running Ubuntu, and they would stick a GPU or two inside the system, and they'd be using the PyTorch type libraries to do any kind of machine learning. So a lot of your work is done in Excel. Okay, so you know you're kind of in one of these positions where you've got some of the background to do it, but you're missing a lot of the other parts of the background to do it. So if I wanted to do something and I really wanted to be good at data, or specifically data science, and is that really the place that you'd like to be, Yareth? Because data science is probably one of the places that what you're describing sounds like to me in terms of data. You're saying data examination. To me, data science is, take the data, learn the data, figure out what you can do with the data, and make better business intelligence decisions. So in your particular case, I still think you're going to need a basic architecture certification because you're a little light on the experience, and that's okay. For that, I would probably do the Google Professional Cloud Architect because it's going to teach you a lot of the basic things on the cloud, and it's going to give you enough depth that you can be just about functional without a big data center background. So it's weak for a lot of things. If you wanted to be like a generic cloud architect, I'd say it's not enough. But because you want to focus on the data science piece and you're doing a little bit of it in your current job, you're in a relatively good position. So I would say if you did the certified solution architect professional and then you did the big data professional, the one where they start talking about machine learning, they'll give you something. If you have the ability to pick up a cheap NVIDIA GPU and make a Linux system, and inside of your Linux system, basically do some machine learning on it, write a Python script, install the PyTorch libraries, install the TensorFlow libraries. And you're going to need an NVIDIA card for this because you can't. Well, it could be done on AMD cards, but all the libraries are built for NVIDIA. So build this, play with it, build some good projects, and then you'll have real machine learning experience. And you want to do this on your own, not on the cloud, because it's going to be a fortune on the cloud. 2, and then you won't be able to get as close to the operating systems. Build yourself some machine learning things. I mean, you've done some machine learning projects. Okay, wonderful. So if you know how to do that and you can communicate about it, get yourself the professional architect certification and get yourself the professional data science one, and then just keep working on your data science things. And that plus your consulting background is probably enough. Never neglect the benefits of working on soft skills, emotional intelligence, executive presence, that sort of thing, because it makes a big difference in your salary and hireability. But if you're working in a management consulting company, they may be teaching you that already. So, for example, McKinsey teaches that of new people and the such. So I know you're not a big four, but the point is you may have actually gotten that. Those 2 should be sufficient for you. But if you need more guidance, so you can let me know. And if you want to get much deeper in the guidance, you can attend one of my weekly coaching calls, my weekly, well, I should say Monday and Thursday calls. I'll drop a link to this over here. In these calls, not only we talk about how to get your first cloud architect job, how to get real life cloud architect experience, but we will also take your questions live, have a 10-minute conversation with you, and you can do that. Now, you know what? Sometimes we get into questions with regards to careers and people just don't know where to go, and I'm going to do this. I'm pretty busy, but I do the best I can to get back to people. So I'm going to leave my number should any of you guys have any questions on the programs we do, the coaching we do, and how to get where you need to in your career. So I'm going to drop that in there as well. I really want you guys to be as successful as possible in life. Okay, Yarith. So what I would probably do, I would probably get myself a good professional level cloud architecture exam. I really like the Google Professional Cloud Architect. It's probably the best cloud architect exam in the industry. And that'll basically show some moderate depth of knowledge in the cloud, moderate, because none of these cloud certifications are that deep compared to what we do on the industry side, like a data center side or networking. But that professional cloud architect exam would be the first place that I would go. And then I would actually do this data engineer professional version, the data professional one. I will tell you, I did the Google Professional Cloud Architect as my first exam. I will tell you, I thought it was an exceptionally good exam. I will tell you that if you understand the cloud, I mean truly understand the cloud, you will find it to be a very simple exam. If you're like most of the people that I work with that basically have read some certification things or gone through some Udemy things, it will be a monstrous cloud exam. The reason I say it was easy for me is I've been working in cloud for 25 years. We used to call it the network and we called it the data center. And we were building clouds for organizations that literally had 10,000 remote locations and 50,000 subnets. And these things, and they've got thousands and thousands and thousands of servers and load balancers and DNS devices and firewalls and IDS and IPS. They were clouds. And when you start looking at those kind of things, they did well. So for those kind of reasons, I found that, I train the network and I train the data center to people, and they do it. And the proof of this is, I bought the Google Professional Cloud Architect book on a Friday. I had just written my AWS Certified Solutions Architect Professional book for my students. And I literally read the book on a Saturday and Sunday, and Monday took the Google Professional Cloud Architect exam. And within 45 minutes, I was done the exam, and I passed, and it was easy for me because I knew the network and the data center. Now, I will tell you, if I didn't know the network and the data center and I read that book, that would be the worst possible exam you could possibly imagine, because it was detailed, it was deep, and it was complicated. But it is a very good exam. It assesses you things in the industry. The AWS exams, and I love them too, but they're more about like, what is the name of an AWS service, and how do you configure it, which is not what a cloud architect does. Cloud architect is going to meet with the customer. They're going to get customer information, business, legal, technical requirements, and then they're going to design a solution, and then they're going to build that solution for the customer. That's what an architect does. They're not going to be the person configuring the management console all day. That's what a junior implementation engineer does. So train the way you work. So understand that, learn the network, learn the data center, and if any of you guys want to learn how to get real cloud architect experience, you can get that cloud architect in your home so you can get hired. You can take the free webinar that I told you about, or you can take this other webinar, which I do every Tuesday, and it's about how to get cloud architect experience in your home. Whatever I can do for you guys to help you in your careers, I will happily let you do that. And we've got almost free webinars almost every day of the week where you can talk to us. But I still love this YouTube platform. So, Yarith, did I answer your question? Peter, do you have any more questions before we go into anybody else? Yarith, it's so nice to speak with you. Damien, you really enjoy my videos. Thank you so much. Could you recommend how you stay up to date with the cloud? How do you do your approach? Damien, that is one of the best questions anybody's asked me, and I'm going to give you the answer, and it's a lot simpler you could possibly imagine. And it looks from the outside like all this stuff on the cloud is so new and it's constantly changing. And still, I'll get to your questions in a minute. But it looks like all this stuff on the cloud is new and exciting. But you know what? None of it's new. And for example, the network and the data center, all of this stuff. We used to virtualize the network and the switches with VLANs. We've been doing server virtualization for 20 years. with VMware, and now it's being done on the cloud. We've been doing containers for the last 5 or so years. We've been using firewalls, network load balancers, and sure, I'll get you. But we've been using all these devices literally for 20 some years, and then we take it to the cloud, and then we release the services on the cloud. And on the cloud, we have 80% of the functionality we had for the last 25 years in the data center. So for me, the cloud is really just catching up to the things that we've done in the data center forever. So the cloud is still probably 10 years behind the data center. So for me, there's nothing new to learn. Now, there are certain things like cloud formation templates and automation, which are great, and you can do it in the cloud. There's some auto scaling things on the cloud, which are good. But to answer your question, Damien, I do a couple things to stay up to date on the cloud. One is me and my students, we build our own cloud computing environment from scratch. And I don't mean going to AWS. I mean, we take a server, we install a Linux operating system, then we install an OpenStack Ansible cloud. In addition to building our cloud, we're setting up the hypervisors, we're setting up the containers, we're setting up the storage, we're setting up all these services we're going to use. So my students and I just constantly build cloud computing environments from scratch, and they're constantly building cloud computing environments from scratch to get to work with everything. And we focus on the architectural components instead of the new services. And basically, when you focus on, okay, I need compute, I need storage, I need a NoSQL database, I need an SQL database, I need a data warehouse. That's how we look at things from an architectural perspective, and all my students do. And by looking at things from an architectural perspective, what really goes on is we can be on any cloud, because I like to tell my students that, look, okay, if you need an NoSQL database, okay, you can use Apache Cassandra, you can use DynamoDB on AWS, you can use Google Bigtable. It really doesn't matter. It's all irrelevant. So learn the tech, learn the underlying technologies, know how everything works at the component level, and then you can work on anywhere and on any tech. So Damien, that's what I do. I stay very current on all the current data center technologies and all the current networking technologies. I do constantly go to industry events on the cloud to look for things, but I know the fundamentals really well. For example, a route reflector is something we used to use in BGP to get rid of the non-transitive properties of IBGP peering and the full mesh requirements. And interestingly enough, 20 years later, we're using the same functions on eBGP via IBGP. We're using the same thing with Cloud Hub. So none of this stuff is really so new, Damien. It's basically all that we've been doing for so many years. It just now has new names. Damien, before I get to anybody else's questions, did I answer your question? Okay, so Kishore is next, and then I think Stella's there, but okay, Kishore, your question is going to be very simple, so I'm going to answer your question. Kishore, the Cloud Architect Career Development Program is a rolling basis, meaning we accept people every week and they start, and we work with them and coach them throughout the process in our group coaching calls. And we do this because, we want to make sure that we can give as much value for our students at the same time. If we run them in batches, we basically have to do heavy levels of Facebook advertising and charge a fortune for the courses to get like 50 people signed up per course. We do it on a rolling admission, and we do it on a rolling admission, and we do it for the following. We have 2 coaching calls per week in this program. So twice a week there's live instruction. People ask their questions. We do architecture projects together as a team. Like one weekend, we all built a cloud in my house. Another day, we all basically set up a demilitarized zone, configured a firewall, set up VPN concentrators, and built all of our servers for our Cloud Architect Lab. So our students do that, but we have 2 live lectures per week. We have video recordings that can be watched at any time. And inside of our video recordings, we additionally have a private LinkedIn group where people have homework assignments. They turn their assignments into the group. And the students have been really great. I've had one student that's been with me for 3 weeks that got their first tech job in their life, which I've been pretty proud of. I have another student that's got promoted. I've got other students that are going on interviews and getting second and third interviews, and they've only been with me for a few weeks. I've been doing this for a very long time, but I've been doing it on a private basis. And by being able to do it this way, in a group coaching environment, I'm able to drop the cost down by 90% of what it would cost to doing in a private coaching environment, which means I can help a lot of people along the way, which is something that makes me pretty happy. So that's how we do that. To answer your question, we do those questions. Oops, I didn't mean to do this, but we do these kind of questions. We allow people into the program on a rolling basis, and people join the program on a rolling basis. And and they do well. So for everyone, and then I see there's some more questions, in case anybody's interested, we have the Cloud Architect Career Development Program and the Cloud Architect Hands-On Experience Program. If anybody's interested, obviously call me, but also here's the link to those two programs, and I'm dropping in some coupons for everyone in case they desire to make it a little more affordable. So I'll mention this, and I'm going to go straight back to answering questions. So that's a coupon code for the Cloud Architect Career Development Program. And for people that are interested in the Cloud Architect Experience Program, I'm going to drop that in. And that's basically the same technical program. People will build servers, their cloud, their firewalls, their switches, VPN concentrators. Then the students build a cloud, and then they start doing architectural projects, meaning video case studies. And then they meet with the CIO of an organization. The CIO of an organization will give them their business, legal, technical, financial challenges. And our students will actually design an architecture. And then they will take that architecture they design and do it on the AWS cloud and another cloud. So we want real good cloud architects. We want to build experts instead of people that just know a little bit about the cloud environment. So those are the two things that we answered. And anybody, again, that has any questions can call me. We interact with clients all day. We do a lot of free 15-minute consults to basically guide people in the right direction. And either they're good for our programs and we recommend it, or they're not and we guide them. So we do anything we can to help the community. Okay, sure. Before I move on to the next question, did I answer your question? And actually, before I do that, though I will tell you that the majority of the work we actually do is with regards to coaching people to get their first job or best job, and that's really our strength. We still work do what we can to help the cloud architect community. So to that end, we released a free, basically 6-hour certified solution architect associate course. I just dropped the link to that. It's 100% free, and we did it because we know that there are a lot of people that could use a certification to boost their career. We also know there's many people that can't afford the certification training, so they get some very cheap training, which doesn't help them. So we decided to make our certification training completely free. We have a book. We have that YouTube video that I just put the link to. Please share that video with anyone that you think that will be helped. We just want to help as many people in the cloud architect world as possible, and that's why we chose to produce that course for free. And we will be releasing a certified solutions. We will be producing an advanced networking book that we'll be giving away for free within approximately 2 months or so, and we'll be releasing an AWS advanced security book that we'll be releasing completely for free in the next 8 to 10 weeks as well. So we'll have a lot more free training out there for you guys. Please, spread the word if you desire. We want to do everything we can. So, Rich. Okay, but I think there's a Stella. Stella, it seems like everyone stresses the 5-year cloud experience, and this is a hard barrier. It's not. Your interview tips are to be honest about what you know, but this is still it's definitely relevant, and I'll tell you why. So Stella, I will tell you that as long as I've been involved in technology, no one would ever hire anybody without 150 years of experience, and yet every one of us gets our first tech job. 5 years is not a hard barrier. I can tell you I've gotten people with 0 experience into these companies, and they've had great jobs, and I've had people that have senior roles within a few years that are in their 20s, early 20s, and it's never been a problem. Here is the actual challenge, Stella. The world needs competency. Hiring managers need competency, and that's why they're looking for experience. What happens, there's 2 ways to apply for your job. Our students go through IT tech recruiters, and our students go through tech recruiters. They get pre-sold to the hiring manager. They speak to the hiring manager. They get hired, and then after they get hired, then they fill out a application, and then HR basically comes up with an offer for them. We've been doing this for 20 plus years, and that's typically what we do. It's how I got my first tech job when I had 0 experience and 0 degrees in the tech field. So we don't worry about these hard things. We worry about getting you hired, and we worry about getting you speaking to the hiring manager, and we worry about building your brand. Here is the disconnect. I'm going to tell you right now. A typical meeting for a cloud architect and a typical cloud architect job would be, okay, you're meeting with the CIO of an organization. And if the CIO of an organization were to say to you, and this is so common, this is like a daily basis, that look, we're a financial firm. We have over 1,000 servers that are running. We have a customer-facing portal, which is very, very simple. It's running on 10 servers that are load shared for the web layer, 10 servers that are load shared for the application layer, and an Apache Cassandra NoSQL database. And they can tell you that, and then you know what to do. They might also say we have an algorithmic training application that's running on AMD EPYC servers that all have 128 cores, 4 terabytes of RAM, and NVMe RAID arrays that give 10 million IOPS. And those systems are so critical, and latency is so critical, that we all have them in the same rack locally, because they can't tolerate a few nanoseconds of additional traffic going across their data center. They might say something like that. They might also say they have 2 petabytes of data, and the data needs to be stored in an immutable environment for 7 years to comply with SEC regulations. They also have to comply with Sarbanes-Oxley regulations, as well as PCI DSS regulations. They might also say in the same meeting that in addition to these applications, we're running an IP multicast application in our environment for financial feeds, and we need to somehow find a way to get that across the cloud through our other sites that we're going to be doing peering through the cloud. Oh, by the way, we have 10,000 remote locations, and we need to come up with a remote access VPN. Now, what I just gave you was a third of an actual architecture situation. Now, I don't know anybody that would read the AWS Advanced Certification Certified Solution Architect Professional that would actually be able to do that without data center training. In the data center, we'd say, okay, we've got this many numbers of servers. We need this many compute instances. So if it's AWS, it's EC2. Servers that are running 128 cores, 4 terabyte RAM, and NVMe RAID arrays that are providing 10 million IOPS. And we can't even place it across the room because the latency is too much, that can't go to the cloud. So keep that in the data center. We have 2 petabytes of data that we've got to get there. Okay, what's the storage architecture to get it there? Do we need to get there immediately where we're going to use a snowmobile? Can we get it there over moderate time where we're just going to snowball? Or does it make sense to bundle a couple of 10 gig links in a link aggregation group and then transfer it over the network? The architect is going to have to do that. And I could go on and go on and go on. This is the job of an architect. So this is the disconnect. The training is basically teaching you, how do you configure stuff on the cloud? And the architect's job is go meet with the client and go take their requirements and go design something and then write it up and then sell it to the actual customer. And then maybe have somebody else, a junior implementation engineer, go configure these things for you. So that's a disconnect. You do not need 5 years experience, Stella, but you need to have the competency to be able to basically right on the fly design an architecture that will work. That's the issue. On a technical interview, I ask my people constant architecture questions. On every technical interview I've been on, it's been that way. I've had 5 job interviews in my life. I've had 5 job offers because part of it is your interview technique. So the key is to make yourself incredibly technically competent, super solid, super capable, super reliable. 2, build a brand that says you're an expert on something as opposed to, so don't get 10x AWS certified. Instead, become an expert on something. Maybe security, maybe you learn this much about IAM, but I mean, the point is be an expert on something. Build a brand for yourself, build a network of recruiters, build the perfect interview, and it's got to be the perfect interview. Develop executive presence, develop some gravitas, or where people feel you. Develop some authenticity and be good in your interviews. I can tell you, I interview people every day of the week, literally every day of the week. And here's what happens on interviews. I can tell you, here's what we hiring managers want. If you know what the hiring manager wants, you're going to be more likely to get hired. First and foremost, we want someone that's competent. That's 50% of what we care about. Can the person do the job? The next thing that we actually care about is, can we trust the person? That's number 2. So when I ask someone technical questions on an interview, and the second thing they do is, I ask them a question and they don't know the answer and they lie, I'm done. Interview's over. Because I can't trust them. So even if they were the best architect in the world, they're not trustworthy, so they're instantly no use to me. So right then and there, that's why 90% of people get rejected when they go on these things. So someone that's competent and then someone that's honest. Now, what else do employers want? I can tell you right now, because I've interviewed thousands upon thousands upon thousands of employees. I've interviewed hiring managers for the last 25 years, and I've been interviewing executive recruiters for as long as I can remember. In fact, when I started my career, and I had no degrees in health, I had degrees, but I mean, they were not in computing. I was practicing internal medicine. So when I had no background or no experience, I called 50 recruiters. They told me exactly what the ideal person was for the job that I wanted, and I became that person, and that's how I get hired. So we do it all the time. I get lots of people through our Cloud Architect Career Development Program that get great jobs, and it's fine. You can do this with us. You can do it on your own, but executive presence, emotional intelligence, interview skills, verbal skills, work on your writing skills, build your technical competence, and you'll be great. That's what we do with our students, and we have lots of ways to get them published and recognized. But you can do these on your own too. We just have a formula that's been working with us for the last 20 some years that we tend to use in my private coaching world. But whatever you do, just make sure you focus on these things. So I told you what a hiring manager desire. Very clear. Someone that can do the job, someone they can trust, someone that's going to bring out the best in others, someone that's going to raise the energy in the room, someone that communicates well, someone that's enthusiastic, someone that's got a great attitude, and someone that's a team player, and someone that's willing to go above and beyond. So look at every social media post you make. Look at everything you do. And what is it saying? Or is it saying you're strong, you're capable, you're a warrior that will go until the job's done? Or is it saying, I need the perfect work-life balance. That's what I'm interested in. If you have that in your social media, your brand value will go down real fast. If you show in your social media that you are strong, you are capable, you are motivated, and you are ready to conquer the world, people will come to you because employers desire someone that can go above and beyond. I'm not telling you not to have a quality of life balance. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying that in life, if you want a really great job, you have to put things in the employer's perspective, not our own perspective. That's why I tell my students, for example, never have an objective on your resume. Why? Because an objective says, this is what I want out of the relationship. An executive summary, which I have my students put on their resume, is different. The executive summary says, I'm an expert in this, this, and this. And because I have these expertise in this, this, and this, I can help you and your business achieve this, this, and this. Put your solution in the customer's mind, and you will always be employed and you'll get paid a whole lot more. So before I go into the next question, Stella, did I answer your question? Okay, fantastic. Rich ambiance. Hey, Mike, thanks for the live. My question is to cloud prospects after doing cloud computing IT degree. Oh, can you acquire a role in cloud straight after graduation from the degree, or is experience necessary? Rich, I will tell you that over the last 20 some years, I have worked with so many college students, and by the time they're out of school, they have a job. I will tell you, when you're in school and you want a job directly after school and you don't feel like going to help desk or taking some kind of junior level job, and there's no reason to do that, what you got to do when you're in college is you got to make yourself so much different than the average person. The average person in college is posting about being drunk in parties, and they're focusing, on their lifestyle and being a kid. Build your brand. While you're in college, if you use social media, and if you do, great, and if you don't, that's another story. But if you're using social media, everything you should produce should basically show you as a strong, capable, competent cloud architect. Do something with regards to some research, do an architectural project and show it, build a test lab, show pictures of this, build a cloud, build it, show pictures of your cloud, write some architectural documentation and put it out there. Then you need to start getting some practice presenting, maybe join Toastmasters, see if there's a local AWS meetup group where you can learn a topic, but very small topic, because I want you to get some depth, but maybe pick something small and then give a presentation, get some experience presenting. While you're in school, get certified. Professional level certifications matter. Do not get, under any circumstances, 3 to 5 associate level certifications. They don't work. They don't do anything for you. See, here's what we know as hiring managers, and I wish I could give this advice to everybody. If you've gone to first grade or elementary school or primary school, the school where you go to initially when you're young, because in America we call it first grade. Outside they might call it primary school. But when we go to school and they basically tell us to share and to color with our crowns and basically some addition and some basic things, that's what the associate level certification means to a hiring manager. They know that you basically have been introduced to the concepts, that you know a little bit about it, and that you're in the learning process, that you could probably start to work, but it's just a beginning. And what happens is when people get 5 different associate level certifications, it looks like they went to first grade 5 different times. The problem and the challenge is, as hiring managers, we want someone that graduated college and has college depth, not kindergarten or first grade depth. And when someone goes and repeats first grade 5 different times, because they want like this cert associate, the DevOps, the SysOps, the associate, this. What ultimately happens is we've got a person that's gone to kindergarten 5 times and they still don't have the skills that are necessary or the depth to do the job. So if you're in school, get yourself some professional certifications. Now, Rich, I'd like to find out exactly what you'd like to do on the cloud. So if you can tell me what your goal is on the cloud, and if you have any other experience, if you had any other jobs, I'll give you something much more prescriptive than generic guidance. Rich, could you tell me what your experience is, what you're studying, and where you'd like to go on the cloud? Like, do you like security? Do you like networking? Do you like IAM? Do you like DevOps, SysOps? If you give me some guidance, or some information, I'll happily give you a lot more guidance. Into architecture. Okay. Rich, do you have any certifications right now? Solutions architect okay, so you want to work in solutions architecture or DevOps, is that correct? And do you have any, you don't have any that's okay that you have no certifications. For one thing, I put a link to our Certified Solutions Architect Associate training. It's completely free. Hopefully you saw that link. Did you see that link, Rich? For the course and the free ebook? Okay, please check that out. That'll help you get the first level of certification for free. While you're in school, Rich, start learning the fundamentals of the cloud. Build a firewall on a Linux machine, set up some server virtualization with VMware ESXi, or you could do it with one of our students as well, but you could do this. Build a firewall with like IP tables or UFW. Build an open access VPN. I mean, start building all the things that make the cloud possible. Then build an OpenStack Ansible cloud, and you're going to need some pretty heavy servers for that. But you can do that. But we do it on one of our servers. Our students spend a week building their own cloud. Actually, we could do it in an hour, but we give them a week to actually play with the cloud and really do some services, and they can integrate their clouds with other clouds if they desire. But get yourself some deep technical competency. Do the associate certification, do the professional certification. And then, Rich, you're going to need some kind of background in Linux and or networking. So for people getting a cloud job straight out of college, we like to see something like a Certified Solutions Architect Professional, something like a CCNA to show some networking. And basically, we like to see a basic intro Red Hat certification, like a Red Hat Systems Administrator, Certified Systems Administrator. Because what are you really doing on the cloud? You're doing some heavy Linux stuff, you're doing some networking stuff, and then you're doing some data center stuff. So if you were to get that portfolio straight out of school, and you started working on building your professional brand while you're here, and you started learning how to post and write and speak, you should be really good when you're done school, assuming you've got good interview techniques and emotional intelligence, all of those things. It's a big, heavy focus on your first job. The world might look at me and, why is Mike so obsessed with soft skills, emotional intelligence, empathy, and all these things? And I'm going to tell you right now, when we interview someone for a job, this is assuming they've come to us through an executive recruiter, which is how we get most of our people our jobs, and that's how I've always been hired. Basically, there is no such thing as a candidate score that's like 100%. Oh, this person's got 50 years experience. Why? Because just because you've got 50 years experience doesn't mean you haven't been doing it wrong for 50 years. So when it comes to us, when it comes to the things that we're truly looking for, we're looking for competency, not experience. HR uses experience as a proxy for competency because they're not technical people and they don't know how to judge competency. But we hiring managers do know how to judge competency. And competency means everything to us. If you're not competent, you can't actually do the job. So you need to be competent. So a competent person can do the following. If I asked you, what is object storage, you could answer what it is, how it works, why you use it. If I asked you, how would you create a remote access VPN for 10,000 sites? A competent person could do this. By the way, I released a lot of these kinds of questions today in a video that I just produced called AWS Certified. I'll drop the link to it. And it's interview questions that you can actually do to help you become more successful in an interview. I'll drop a link to that as well. But you've got to be able to answer questions. You've got to be honest on these answers, and you've got to show depth of knowledge. You have to show that you know something. I like to tell my students the following: to walk in there with a strong answer to a tell me about yourself, because it's something we always ask, what are your strengths and weaknesses? And be prepared to speak in depth of at least 3 technologies on every interview. Why am I so concerned about 3 technologies? Why is 3 the magic number? Because you could take the interview on their terms, or you could take the interview on your terms. The interview on their terms, as they ask you a question you don't know, they ask you another question you don't know, they ask you another question you don't know, interview's over. It's done. That's leaving their interview up to chance, and I do not believe in hope as a management strategy. I like to build a plan, and take action on my plan. My students, and the reason I've always been successful in interviews, and the reason my students are as well, is they walk into an interview, and when the hiring manager asks them a question, if they know it, they give a deep, strong technical answer. What the technology is, how it works, why you would use it, and then if they need to get into the specifics, they can. But what it is, how it works, and why you use it, that's the job of an architect. So that's the answer that my students give, and they do it in depth for everything that they can answer. Now, the thing is, if they ask you a question and you don't know, you could bluff, which a lot of people do. 95% of the people just bluff. And you know what happens when they bluff? We basically realize, okay, I don't trust them. Might be polite because we don't want to leave a bad taste in someone's mouth. Maybe you can give them a cookie or something like that. Basically, the interview is over and they are gone. By comparison, if you were to say, I've not had the opportunity to learn that technology yet, but I learn fast and I know what I know and I know what I don't know, but I do know this, and this, and I can talk to you in depth about it so you can gauge my technical competency, you change the conversation dramatically. It's a super different conversation. Why is it different? Because before, either you lied, in which case then that ended it, or the hiring manager asked you one question you didn't know, he asked you another question you didn't know, asked you a third question you didn't know, and basically the interview is over because it's been viewed you're incompetent. But if, and this is what most people do in their interviews, I see it all the time, if you were to basically say, I'm sorry I've not had the opportunity to learn that yet, but I learn fast, I know what I know and I know what I don't know, and I can find answers to things quickly, but I do know X, Y, and Z, wow, you're in a new position because you just did a couple of things. The first thing that you did is basically signal to him you're honest, or her, the hiring manager. That automatically makes you ahead of basically 90% of the population, maybe even 95. 2, you just told them you know what you know and you know what you don't know. Why does that matter? As hiring managers, especially in this kind of tech, the most dangerous thing we have is someone that doesn't know their limitations because they're the people that make a configuration error and it takes somebody's network and system down, and then they have an outage and then big issues. So we just proved them they're honest. You've proved to them you're safe. 3rd, you took control of the interview because you told them you didn't know this, which is fine, but you said, these are the areas that I know well. So now you guided them to ask you the questions on the things that you know. So you took control. So no longer are they going to ask you the same questions again and again and again. That's up to chance that hopefully you know and hopefully you don't know. Do this. Tell them what you know, what you don't know, and then the next thing you realize, now you're something different. Now you're someone they care about. You're honest. You're capable. You're knowledgeable. You understand yourself. And many hiring managers like me have gone through MBA programs like me. And most MBA programs used to make us read The Art of War. It's a fantastic strategy book. I recommend it to everyone. One of the things they said in The Art of the War is if you know yourself and you know your enemy, you will always be victorious. Know yourself, know your enemy, always be victorious. That means know yourself, know your strengths, your weaknesses, know your enemy, know what they want, know what they need, know what your competition is, and be better than your competition and be a way to solve what your enemy's challenges are, and you will always win. If you don't know yourself and you don't know your enemy, you will always lose. If you know yourself but not your enemy, for every win there'll be one loss. And if you don't know yourself but you know your enemy, for every win there'll be one loss. Head in the cloud. Should we go for Kubernetes or Docker certification? That is an exceptionally good question. I typically do love Kubernetes, and not being a strong expert in Kubernetes would be great. I would probably get some more of a VMware type series certification because in the VMware environment, you're going to learn server virtualization and you're going to learn containers. And by doing that, and by taking something like a VMware certification, for example, you're showing industry knowledge. So I typically like to take the AWS certifications or the GCP certifications for what they're good at, which is basically showing you that you know how to use the cloud. And I typically like to use these deeper industry certifications like a VMware one or a Red Hat one or a Cisco one or an Oracle one to fill in the gaps. And the reason I like to do this so much and it's so important to me, in my experience, it's been these certifications are so much deeper. Like if you look at the AWS Advanced Networking and then you look at the CCNP, the AWS Advanced Networking may cover 2% of the content that's on the CCNP. So when you've got someone that's going to design a network, that CCNP is going to be really solid. But you need to have some understanding and depth of the cloud, and that's why we like the Certified Solutions Architect Professional for AWS or the Google Professional Cloud Architect. So those are the reasons why we do what we do, and our plans are the way they are. So heading to clouds, did I answer your question? That's really a cool username. Okay, well, heading to clouds. So does anybody have any other questions for me? Sure, heading to clouds. What's your other, is that you were good with the questions answered, or do you have another question? I want to make sure I can do anything I can for you guys while you're here. You have an Azure Integration Architect interview. How should you prepare? Well, a couple things I would do. One is I produced a tremendous number of videos on my channel that are related to interviews, and I would definitely watch them. Two, I would make sure that by tomorrow I've got a strong answer about tell me about yourself, a strong answer about what are your strengths and weaknesses, and I would be very focused on making sure I have at least 3 technologies that I know well, that I could describe it, what it is, how it works, why you would use it. I would also do the following. I would try and research the hiring manager and research the company. I would try and establish rapport early in the interview process, and I made some posts on how to do that last week by basically finding some common ground. And there's definitely some things that I popped in terms of how to do that. I would make sure that your resume, well, like they've already seen your resume, but I'd make sure. So between now and tomorrow, when you don't have a lot of time, great answer to the tell me about yourself. Know 3 technologies well. I would make sure that you've got an answer to your strengths and weaknesses. Your strengths should be something that you're really good at. Your weaknesses should be honest, but they shouldn't be anything showstopper. So if you were to say I'm lazy, that's not a good weakness. If you were to say, for example, that you're slightly disorganized, but because you're slightly disorganized and you know that about yourself, you use a series of checklists and reminders to make sure you don't miss anything, that's a good answer. NJ, the link to the training course coupon does not work for you. Well, I don't know why that would be. Let me just try and, I'm going to pop in I'm going to do this one at a time. If you may have been trying to use a coupon code, that could do this. So, oops, that's the wrong one that I was looking for. Bear with me 1 second. I'll take care of that before I go to the next question. And then I'll go straight. So for the Cloud Architect Career Development Program, that's the link to the program. And this is the coupon code for 25% off. And if you have any struggles and you need to call me, you can. And here's the next one. If it was related to the Cloud Architect Experience Program, I'll give you this. And this is the link to it. And here's a link to 25% off. If for some reason you try and sign up and can't, call me or send me a text message, and I'll straighten it out with you. Generate a coupon in your name or whatever I have to make sure you get the experience. NJ, did I answer your question? Head in the clouds, you live in America. Once you pass 1K, taxes start kicking in. Totally true. And so is it realistic to get your first cloud architect job starting at $200,000 a year? Depends on you. It depends on your background. I'd say the majority of people typically get a first job in the $100,000 a year range, and within a year can move up to around 200, no problem. That's typically very easy to do. If you've got some background and experience, it's very easy to get a $200,000 a year job. Some recruiters reach out to me to between $250,000 and $300,000 a year jobs literally once or twice a week. So they definitely exist out there. I don't take them because I love what I do, but the point is there's a lot of them. I typically pass these types of roles on to my students, and I have a pretty large network of recruiters for my students as well. So it depends. Now, if you've been working in networking for a little period of time, moving to a $200,000 a year cloud architect job is absolutely nothing. If you've got a strong Linux background and you've been working in Linux for a few years, that's fine. But I will tell you this, head in the clouds, a manager of mine many years ago at one of the biggest tech companies pulled me aside and he said, Mike, do you want to know the difference between a $100,000 a year engineer and a $300,000 a year engineer? And I said, yeah, I need to know right now. And he said, it's not your technical capabilities. He said, once you get past that $150,000 mark, it's not technical capabilities, it's communication skills. It's how do you speak? Do you raise the energy in the room? Do you bring out the best in others? Are you emotionally intelligent? And he said, if you're interested in that, I can send you for training. So yes, I have 2 master's degrees, and yes, one of them is an MBA and one of them is in medicine. When you're doing that, you have to communicate with patients. But the biggest thing that happened is he sent me to management training. I spent a week learning empathy and another week emotional intelligence class. And then they hired me an executive coach. And let me tell you, after all that training, my career skyrocketed. I had multiple promotions and it made a massive difference in my salary. And it will for you too. The statistics are astounding. Individuals that basically train emotional intelligence, and we do this in all of our programs, but individuals that train emotional intelligence earn on average $29.6 thousand more per year, which over the course of a 30-year career is about $900,000. A good interview can basically make a difference of $10,000 to $50,000 in your job salary. And that again could be another $1 million difference in your career. So these things matter. These soft skills like emotional intelligence, empathy, executive presence are that critical. So if you have no experience head in the clouds, then these things become 10 times more critical. So look at it this way. If you're going to buy a car and you've got a car that's completely new, say that's the person with 20 years experience that's also incredibly competent, car is going to substantiate one price. But let's say that you're a car and you're not quite as the brand of your car isn't quite as good because you have less experience. What could you do? So let's say you wanted to sell a car that has a slightly lower value of brand. First thing you would do, if it was a used car, for example, you'd polish it up. You'd get it professionally cleaned. You'd clean the inside, you'd clean the outside, you'd get it all polished up, you'd make it look really, really, really shiny. Then if there was anything that was broken, you would fix it. Then you might add a couple of upgrades. You try and make it look so much better than the thing that actually has a better brand that you could be there. And granted, you might get a slightly lower salary, but by the process of polishing everything up, you are in so much better of a position. And so really it's about making sure you look good. So look at it this way. If you've got 2 cloud architect people, and basically everybody gets a score of 0 to 100%. If you can be a 50 out of 50 on the soft skills, emotional intelligence, and a 35 out of 50 on the technical competency, you're now scoring an 80 out of 100. Now you take someone that's got 10 years experience and they can score a 40 out of 50 instead of 35 out of 50, but they only score a 30 out of 50 on the emotional intelligence and soft skills. Now you got a 75 versus your 85 to 90 by polishing up by doing things and taking the rock and polishing up and turning it into a diamond. That's why we focus so much of these things, because if it's your first job head in the clouds, you're going to have to be ultra good, ultra shiny, and show that you are so much better than the rest. And that's why we strongly recommend these functions. So that's what I would do head in the clouds. And of course, I would get the kind of experience that I'm talking about. Set up server virtualization, build containers, firewalls, open access, VPNs, build your own cloud. You can do this with us. You can do it on your own, but make sure you do these kind of labs and learn the cloud, and make sure you also learn architecture. And like I said, architecture has nothing to do with configuring the management console. Architecture is the ability to meet with the client, get information, and make intelligent decisions based upon that. So that's what I would do if I was you. Suresh K. Can you suggest me how to be technically strong in AWS L2 role? I don't know what you mean by L2 role. If you could help me, Suresh, I'll happily answer your question. Well, Suresh, what I'll do is I will drop a link to this because you asked me how to get real cloud architect experience. This is what we suggest. You can do this on your own. You can do this with us. If you do this on your own, you're going to have to buy your own server. If you do this with us, you can use our servers. We tried to build this to make it a little cheaper. and that's the Cloud Architect Experience program with the coupon code. I have CI Experience. You can do these labs completely on your own gear. You can do these labs completely with us, and that's how you get experience to be able to get hired. Anybody else have any more questions for me? Hey, Jesus, you have, okay, good. Should you continue with RHCG, or is it better? Jesus Torres, that is an exceptional question. What is your goal? If you tell me what your goal is, then I can give you some better guidance. Jesus, what would you like to do on the cloud? Or do you want to be on the cloud? Well, Jesus, I need a little better information to be able to help you. You want to work with enterprise Linux in the cloud. Okay, so you want to do more of that infrastructure, server administration, Linux kind of things, and there's so much work for that in the cloud. I think it's great. If I was you then, Jesus, I would do the following. I'd finish the Red Hat Certified Engineer. I think that's terrific. I would get yourself a professional level cloud certification like the Certified Solution Architect Professional or the Google Professional Cloud Architect. And if you really wanted, Jesus, and you really wanted to stand out on paper, there's some OpenStack Ansible cloud certifications that are done by like the Red Hat types, which are about how to build a cloud and how to optimize a cloud. They get into some pretty good depth in terms of cloud computing. So if you're actually an architect on building clouds as a Linux person, and Red Hat's got some great certification there, and a Red Hat certified engineer like you're describing here, and then you should be pretty good on the cloud. If you've got a lot of experience in Linux and you've got some strong Linux certifications and a professional cloud certification, and then you did a build your own cloud certification like an OpenStack Ansible, which if you've got Red Hat background, that would be great. You would look really fantastic on paper. Again, Jesus, you don't ever neglect the soft skills, emotional intelligence, executive presence. Those are probably more important than your technical competency and have a bigger impact on your career. That's why we focus on them so heavily. Jesus, did I answer your question? Do you have any more for me? Okay, well, I assume I answered it. If you want any more, please let me know. Joshua Dixon, having an associate certificate and done a couple of projects on own, is that enough to switch my career in the cloud? Jesus, what is your background? I'm sorry, Joshua Dixon, what is your background? Because your background and what is your goal? And that will help me understand better whether that's enough or not. Joshua, okay. You currently Java production support Gold Cloud Architect. How long have you been working in Java, Joshua? And have you worked in any other things other than software, such as IP networking? Okay, so you've got a lot of software development experience. That's terrific. Have you done any networking? Have you done any Linux, Unix kind of things? Have you worked on any security things like firewalls, IDS, IPS? Okay, I'm just waiting for you, Joshua, to let me know what other stuff you've worked on. If it was just software development, that's great too. I just want to have the best information. I just don't like to make recommendations without knowing your background and your goals, because then it's just become guesses. Not exactly, but you have knowledge on Java, SQL, and Linux. Okay, well, the good news is if you understand coding, that's going to help you. If you understand SQL, that means you've got some database knowledge, and you can probably do some integration with it as well, which is good. And if you understand Linux, you're good. So you're going to need something a little more substantial to get your first job if it's in the cloud. If you had told me that you had worked on data centers and networking for the last 10 years, I'd say that might just be enough in there. And in fact, some of the most senior people I know in all these cloud organizations got hired with 0 certifications. They got hired with, they had CCIEs or CCNPs, and they had some strong Linux backgrounds or strong security backgrounds, but they didn't have any cloud background. But in your case, if you're coming from software, which is a good background, but it's not exactly an architecture background as it pertains to this, you're definitely going to need at least 1 or 2 more certifications. You're going to have to get a strong professional level certification in the cloud. And then you're going to have to figure out, which part of the cloud you want to do best, and maybe get like a CCNA to give you some network infrastructure background, and basically pick up a basic Linux certification. Yes, you know how to use Linux, but if you can populate that, now you've got something that looks like, because what is the cloud? It's nothing more than a virtualized network in a data center. And that's why it's not, people are trying to make it complicated. It's not, it's a virtualized network in a data center. So get a little network background, get a little data center background. So the Linux and the Cisco will give you some basic, network and data center background. Do the kind of labs we're talking about. Make sure you understand server virtualization, containers. Make sure you understand how to build all these things in a Linux environment. Build your own cloud. Learn how to speak, learn how to write, learn how to present, learn how to document, and you will have any kind of cloud architecture job you desire. That's what we focus on. You can do it with us, you can do it on your own, but make sure you focus on these kinds of things. That's going to be the secret to you getting your first cloud job. Josh, do you have any more questions for me? Okay. Got it, you're good? Okay, fantastic. We've run a little late, but I can still go a few more minutes if necessary. Does anybody have any other questions? In the meantime, today we released a new video on some interview questions for cloud architects. So I'm going to drop the link to that over here. I highly recommend, we've got a lot of videos on how to interview for a job. I highly recommend watching them. The interview is the thing that determines if you get hired or not, and it also has a lot to do with your salary. So I've got lots of interview videos, and I highly recommend them to others. Any other questions? Almost exclusively. Which Linux certification do I recommend? There's a Red Hat Certified Administrator. That's the minimum. We really like the RHCE whenever possible, but that's a fairly substantial exam. But we typically like that because if you're really looking at what you're going to be dealing with in the cloud, you're going to be dealing with a whole lot of Linux, a whole lot of virtualized networking, and a whole lot of virtualized data centers. So when you can understand Linux, it's going to help with everything. So that's what I recommend. ALS, regarding the cloud architecture, can you offer some more details on the case study projects so students can design the cloud architectures and get feedback on their designs? Yes, ALS. So that is an absolutely great question. So what's going on in the Cloud Architect Experience program is in the beginning, we cover the technology, what it is, how it works, and why you would use it. Then after we cover that, the what it is, how it works, and why you use it, then we have you build all the underlying technologies of the cloud, like server, virtualization, containers, firewalls, load balancers, that kind of thing. Then when you're done building all these kind of things, then you build your own cloud. Then we give you some case studies. And in the case studies, they are video case studies, about 5 to 10 minutes long. And they look and feel just like any other meeting I've had with chief information officers or CEOs throughout my career. We give you the business, the technical, the legal requirements, the goals, and from there you actually do it. Now, in my Cloud Architect Career Development Program, we actually cover and discuss these. So Suresh, I'll answer your question in a minute. So regarding the experience program, the students get this, they do the designs. We are creating a LinkedIn group for our students where they can populate the designs and get feedback, and other students can help it. We have an active LinkedIn group for our Cloud Architect Career Development Program, but this is a program that we do. Basically, it's videos, it's case studies, and things like that. Students will learn so much. The people that have done these labs have basically called me and said amazing things to me about how excited they actually are. And for those kinds of things, I think you would get a fantastic experience. You would learn a tremendous amount, and you would get lots of feedback on the designs and the architectures. So you would definitely not have a problem with that. Al S. And if you got any more questions about that, I'm happy to answer it. I don't know if you were here in the beginning, but I did provide my number, and I know you would do well. Sir, can you please suggest me some AWS cloud products for enterprise level which are available in websites? I don't know what you mean by that. Suresh, the problem is not configuring things on the AWS cloud. Anybody can do that. That is never the issue that relates to anything related to getting hired or not. Anybody can do that. The problem is knowing what to configure, how to configure it, and why to configure it. So can I suggest you anything that you can do on AWS Cloud? I can suggest that you go through case studies, or you start in some way, shape, or form, that you actually start learning where they're basically a client that says, I need X, Y, Z, Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie all at the same time. These are my requirements, and then you can design them. And of course you could build them, which our students do. But the problem is not, Suresh, being able to do it on the cloud. I use an 8-year-old to do it, and it's never a problem. The problem is knowing what to do on the cloud. That's the disconnect between getting hired and not getting hired. It's not that can you just go to the management console or use the CLI. That's nothing. It's what type of storage do you need for the application? What type of security? How are you going to lock down the systems? Like, how do you lock down a system? I mean, is it just IAM and WAF and Shield and a security group and a NACL? If so, that's not security. That wouldn't even cover 5% of the security that's necessary for our large enterprise. So the key is, do these things. So Suresh, my answer to you is going to go back to the same thing. I popped a link of a video that you can do to get Cloud Architect experience. You could buy a server, you can do it on a server, and then after that, you can configure these things on the cloud. Learn how everything works. And Al, that is my actual mobile number, so you could just give me a phone call. I wanted to make sure you could actually reach me. And then I have chat applications of like WhatsApp and all of them, but that's neither here nor there. But I just gave you my phone number. I figured that's the best thing to do. You can send me a text message on that or WhatsApp, and I can call you or whatever you need. But Suresh, I could give you 1,000,001 things to do on the AWS cloud, and my certification training, which is there completely for free, is there. But it's the point of you've got to be able to know what to do, how to do it, and why to do it. GCP has some case studies that are published that are exceptionally good, that are part of their exam. You can basically use those and try and configure them on the AWS cloud. That will give you part of it. But if you don't learn server virtualization, and you don't learn containers, and you don't learn how to build all this stuff, and you don't learn how to build the cloud, Suresh, you're always going to be one of those people that are going to basically have a partial understanding and not a complete understanding. Best way I can describe it is I love souvlaki. It's a Greek food. My family's Greek. It's a combination of chicken, salt, pepper, oregano, lemon juice, olive oil, and a few other things that we put into it. Now, I will tell you this. If you've never seen spices and you've never seen chicken, but somebody says, bake it, all right, well, or it tells you what it is, you might sort of know. But if you've cooked it and you've seen the chicken, and after you've seen the chicken, you've manipulated it, and you've played and smelled the spices and tasted the spices and cooked it and eat it, then you're going to know. And that's the problem I have with cloud architects. The certifications. I interview 50 people a week. And when I ask people, how would you design a solution for that? The only thing they can give me is configuration commands or the name of an AWS service. So Suresh, I'm trying to be open, honest, and as fair as possible. What you really need to do is you need to learn how the stuff works at the fundamental level. And then after that, these things become silly easy. I hope I answered your question, but I would get a server or use one of mine. But even if you get a server, buy it for a short period of time and sell it when you're done. That's the hands-on experience that I'm at. ALS, you gave me my number almost exclusively. CCNA and Linux and AWS Architect. Then would that be enough? Well, it would be, because in our architecture program, we would give you this Certified Solutions Architect Professional training and work on with you on getting that done at the same time. So by working on your Linux experiences and by working on your presentation skills, your emotional intelligence, and your technical ability to describe things almost exclusively, that would be plenty for you to get your first cloud job. Again, I'm happy to speak to you and go over that with you in depth, but that should be totally fine because we're going to cover so much in so much depth that you'll wow people in an interview. Okay, whatever. Will you save this broadcast on your YouTube channel? I absolutely will. And almost exclusively, do you have any more questions before I move on to the next one? Okay, so almost exclusively, if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, you know how to reach me. I've given you my phone number, and you also have the links to our programs, but that would serve you well. Joshua Dixon, what are your thoughts on current and future job markets for cloud architects? Well, Joshua Dixon, there are an incredible number of jobs that are out there right now. The last time I saw somebody posted it, I haven't verified it, but they were talking about over 40,000 jobs working with AWS and 35,000 jobs that are actually working with, Azure. That's, in my mind, an extreme underestimate of the number of jobs that are there for the cloud. There are so many of them you can't imagine. I literally get every single day requests for people to hire me or requests for people looking for cloud architects every day. So there's an incredible number of them out there. All I need to do is make a YouTube video. All I need to do is make a social media post, and there's somebody recruiter that's constantly looking for me. Why are they looking for me? Because I'll tell you right now, and this is the same reason we created our program. It is so hard to find someone that's technically competent, that's got a good attitude, that can speak well, that can write well, that's got some gravitas or executive presence and emotional intelligence. And because of that, every time I make something, I get a job. Now, I will tell you, I do not see single cloud environments in the future. I see hybrid clouds and multi-cloud. So that's the other reason I'm so focused on the data center and knowing the cloud. You know, at some point, what it really starts out is, look, it's like, okay, this cloud is the greatest thing. And the cloud is the data center and the network. And after we get some experience, and first it's like, okay, this was supposed to be cheaper on the cloud, but this is 10 times more expensive on the cloud. But this is 20 times cheaper on the cloud. So migrate to the cloud, do this thing in the data center, it works better. I think also there was a decision that was made by one of the cloud providers where a company had a business that they didn't appreciate, and that business was kicked out of the cloud provider, and it made the business go out of business. I will tell you what, I'm not saying whether I agree or disagree with that decision, but I will tell you that every CEO or CIO or every technology professional that I've spoken to is now building contingency plans about using a multi-cloud. Every CEO is concerned about business continuity planning, meaning what happens if the CEO gets hit by a bus? What happens working on training someone that can take over? What happens if the CEO is out sick? What happens if another competitor comes in? How they're going to fight it? What happens if they have a technology failure? What can they do? And when one of the cloud providers said, sorry, business, we don't agree with your mission, you're out of here, you're out of business, every CEO and CIO and everybody I've spoken to from an architecture perspective and a business consulting perspective is all saying, I need multi-cloud. So you got to look at what happened to CEOs when you start looking in the past. There used to be a bunch of small internet service providers, and they used to buy networks from the big internet service providers, and that was their business. It was really great. They had a great business. And then the big internet service provider said, sorry, guys, we're now in the big internet business, and we're not only selling your bandwidth, we're stealing your customers. So lots of CEOs have been through this, where a service provider basically says, we don't agree with you, we now own you. And I think everybody's going to be on a multi-cloud environment. So we're training our students to build hybrid clouds, multi-clouds, learn the data center, learn the network. So no matter what cloud you're in, no matter where you're at, anywhere, anytime, you will always be employed, and you'll be employed for a lot more money, because not only can you speak well and write well, but you're prepared for unknown and unknowable things. And I think most things are going to go to the multi-cloud or hybrid cloud environments in the future. But I do think we'll all be using clouds. Why do we like the cloud? It's the agility. In a non-cloud environment, you have to basically order a server, then install it, then install your application dependencies. And that could take you up to a month in certain circumstances. Whereas with the cloud, you can spin up an instance or a virtual machine in seconds. So there are agility advantages of the cloud, but there are also some things that don't make sense in the cloud. If you're dealing, for example, I give you a financial firm, and I told you we have servers with 128 cores and 4 terabytes of RAM and 10 million IOPS. You can't do that on the cloud. And if you get to the cloud to something that's even close to something like that, you're dealing with upwards of a $10 an hour thing, which could be $250 a day, which could be $1,500 a week, which is $6,000 a month, which is $72,000 a year for a server that you could buy for $50,000. So do you want the $50,000 thing or the $75,000 a year bill? Plus, in addition to that, you got to pay for all your data in and out of the systems. Now, there are times where it's still going to be cheaper to do that because you don't have to manage it, you don't have the people, you don't have to build these vast networks. So it's a case-by-case basis, but what I really see is a multi-cloud environment or a hybrid cloud environment with a tremendous more emphasis placed on security. And it's not just going to be the AWS security solutions. They're not big industries, big enterprises are going to be using Palo Alto, they're going to be using Cisco, they're going to be using Checkpoint, they're going to be using all the F5 devices, and they all already are, but they're going to use all these devices in the cloud. And as a cloud architect, half of your job and half of the complexity is actually working around the limitations of the cloud providers to make it more like a data center, because you can still do things in the data center with far more capacity and far more everything except for agility than you can in the virtualized data center network. Almost exclusively. Before I go on to Grace, did I answer your question? Grace, good morning. You have your AWS Solutions Architect, great. You enjoy building virtual private clouds, EC2. Okay, how many students? Okay, let me finish that before. How many students are there in your experience program? How many classes a week? So let me tell you, there's about 50 students in my Cloud Architect Experience program at various rates. They get plenty of time. We do the following. On Mondays and Fridays, we have group coaching calls where we answer anybody's questions. We do some training and we do mini presentations of things. So on Mondays and Fridays, we work on developing live interactive classes. And you could speak to some of my students, they're incredibly happy and they're all learning a lot. And some of them have already gotten jobs in the first few weeks. So they're doing quite good. And because it's a process I've been doing for 25 years, but I did it on a one-on-one basis, which used to be expensive. And now we're using technology. So we do 2 live coaching calls per week. We have video homework assignments that get done every week and they're placed in video. And these are not webcam videos like we're using now. We bought professional cameras, professional audio, professional lighting. We spent about $50,000 to deliver the perfect video experience. And we have videos that people watch during the week that are self-paced. Then we have homework assignments, which are self-paced, which get placed in a private LinkedIn group for which everybody gets feedback. And my students each help each other students. We do a lot of work in this program almost exclusively to get you brand recognition. We teach you how to optimize your social media. We teach you how to interview. We teach you how to apply for jobs. We often co-author papers with our students. I've got many of my students that are actually writing books with me. The reason we're writing books with me is I've got a massive distribution network because I've been around for a long period of time. I mean a massive distribution network. So I can have my students with me. We can all co-author a book together. I can put every one of their names on there. Then they can basically say they're working in the cloud architect world and they're also being published authors, which matters a lot because remember what I said, architects spend 50% of their time actually writing in their job. So we're proving that you're an expert writer. By writing books with our students, we're proving that they're experts in their field. We can distribute an easy 50,000 copies of these books in a matter of a week or two, which means that when we write things on professional cloud networking and professional security with our students, it can be seen by hiring managers, it can be seen by people working in the field, and it can be seen by people that are being helped. So all of a sudden, our students have a massive brand around them. So we do a lot of projects like this almost exclusively. So we've got two classes per week. We've got homework, we've got video lessons, we've got brand things that we do. We spend a lot of time on your emotional intelligence, interviewing skills. We spend 3 weeks on delivering the perfect interview because a good interview is the difference between getting hired and not getting hired. And a good interview can have a $10,000 to $50,000 impact on your salary. Then we train emotional intelligence. And the reason we train emotional intelligence is that can have upwards of a $30,000 a year impact on your salary. We priced our program at $750 after discount. To let you know why we did that, the average cloud architect earns $593 a day in the US. A good one earns $700 to $800 a day easily. So we came up with this, and our pricing structure is that if we could get someone a job just a single day earlier than they could on their own, it paid for our entire program. And if we can get them a job 6 months earlier, which is probably likely, then they really made some money. If they can get some or all of that $30,000 improvement in salary by training executive presidents, then we basically give them $1 million worth of value. And if we can improve the interview from $10,000 to $50,000 on salary and getting hired, we do that. We also have some salary negotiation workshops that we do through and some communication. So almost exclusively, did I answer all of your questions there before I move on to the next? Well, if you have any more quick questions, almost exclusively, you have my phone number. You can call me, and or you have the website. So, Grace, do I have any recommendation for building your career path based upon what you enjoy doing? I need to find out what you enjoy doing and what your background is. To get the sysops, do you work in sysops, Grace? Do you want to work in sysops? Is there anything about sysops that's attractive to you, or is it just one of the many recommended associate certs that people have said to you? So, Grace, tell me your background and your goals, and then I can tell you if that makes sense. But so, Grace, you said you enjoy building VPCs, EC2, CloudFormation, Lambda, CloudWatch, and S3. As a cloud architect, you're going to do a lot more than that. It's going to be much more related to determining what the right technology is, as opposed to building VPCs and CloudFormation templates. But it still will be definitely part of it. So what you're saying is, if you like VPCs, clouds, Lambda, CloudWatch, and S3, well, I need to really figure out exactly what you want to do. If you want to spend more of your time building CloudFormation templates and Lambda things, then maybe the sysops will help you. If you want to do more architecture things, where you're going to be designing systems for organizations based upon the requirements, the sysops would probably be the last place that I would go. So I need a little more clarification on what you want to do with the cloud, because I don't really think it's possible to find a job where you're just going to build VPCs, EC2, and CloudFormation, Lambda, and S3 templates, unless you want a really junior job. So could you give me a little more information as to your goal job? Like, do you really want to be able to meet with the clients and design a system? Or, okay, so if you want to design systems and do more architecture and more design, the sysops is probably the worst place you can go. So the reason I say this, and somehow along the lines, there's been some knowledge, and to me, it makes no sense, and to other hiring managers, it makes no sense. If you're a solutions architect associate and you want to do architecture, do an architecture certification like the Certified Solutions Architect Professional. If you want to do sysops because you love sysops, do sysops. But there's some kind of guidance that's been floating around, and it's perpetuated by the certification providers. And look, we used to sell certifications, but I chose to give them away for free because it's only part of the getting hired process, and I wanted to focus on things that we could truly do. Plus, I was very unhappy with the certification experiences that I saw that were out there, so we decided to make ours and give it away for free. But if you want to do architecture, do the Certified Solution Architect Professional. And if you want to do architecture, Grace, do you have any other background, like networking or Linux or anything like that? Grace, do you have any background in networking or Linux or other things? I'm trying to find out what your resume looks like to try and help you get there. Okay, so if you have no background in that, and you want to do real architecture, which is the discussion with the clients, the design of an overall solution to meet their business and technical needs, you have Linux experience. That's good. You're gonna have to have something on paper that shows. Now I'm trying to go through some of the things you said. So, Grace, how much time have you been working with Linux? And if you have you been working with Linux, Grace? And do you have any other technical? Well, I'm saying, do you have how much experience? How many years have you been working with Linux? Have you set up servers? Have you been administering them? Have you written maybe shell scripts on them? Have you installed lots of Linux applications from the command line? Have you managed the LAMP stack, Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP? Have you ever made a Linux firewall with UFW or IP tables? Have you ever set up KVM? Okay, so you've done these kind of things, Grace? Because if you have, and you have that kind of strong Linux knowledge, I would probably say next step, if you like AWS, is do the Certified Solution Architect Professional. Are you working in tech, Grace? Or we could point you on experience, because if you're not, it's no big deal. We can still help you get your first job, but we're going to have to build you a different, better certification portfolio. So what is your current work experience, Grace? Do you have any, how many years of do you have experience? If you have experience, and if so, what are you doing? Grace, are you currently working in tech? And if so, could you let me know what you're doing? I want to look, or what you're doing career-wise. I want to look at your background and see how it would correlate to a cloud architect job so I can guide you better. Because it will change the certifications and the training package that you need to do. You're not, but you're looking for a job. You only have about 4 years of you have 4 years of AWS experience. That's a tremendous amount. So you've been, Grace, let me get this straight. You've been working with AWS for 4 years. Is that correct? So Grace, were you working for a company using AWS environments? Because 4 years of AWS, okay, yeah. So in your particular case, certified solution architect professional, and I don't know what your level of soft skills, emotional intelligence, executive presence, interviewing skills are. If they're strong, great. If they're not strong, definitely work on that. The fact that you've got 4 years experience in the cloud is really fantastic. I'm assuming you understand by this point the virtual machines, the containers, all the different types of database options that exist, when you would use them, how you would use them, why you would use them, what type of storage to use. Can you articulate what type of storage you would use, how, when, and where, and why? Can you articulate the purpose of a load balancer, like to improve performance and availability? Can you articulate these things from scratch, like if you got stuck in an elevator? Would you be able to answer these things in depth, Grace? Grace, the more information you can give me, the better I can help you. Okay, Grace, if you can do all of that, then I would just get the Certified Solutions Architect Professional. I would probably also get maybe a Linux or a networking thing like a CCNA or a Red Hat Certified Administrator, just something to show, or both. It's because if you have a Certified Solution Architect Professional and 4 years experience, that's probably enough in and of itself, assuming your interview skills are good, your executive presence is good, your emotional intelligence is good. If it's not, you could be the best candidate in the world and still have a hard time getting a job, or because that matters so much. But assuming those things are good, the Certified Solution Architect Professional is probably all you need. But if coupon code CA experience is not working, I'll make another one right now while we're talking to fix that for you. And guys, thank you for letting me know. Lots of people used it yesterday, but maybe they used all the available coupon codes. So I'll take care of that. But so that's really what I would do, Grace, is I would take care of that. And immediately after I took care of that, I think you'd be in really, really, really good, strong shape. So market and sell. I'm going to create a coupon for you guys. Cloud EXP. Take 25%. Bear with me, and then I'll get to the next question because I see there's some great questions, and I look forward to answering them. And bear with me. I'll go to the next question. But okay, so this. Okay. So as it turns out now, I'm for the Cloud Architect Experience Program. Cloud Architect Experience coupon. Yes. Here's the new coupon. If you want to test that, Sanella, and let me know if you have any trouble, because I'll immediately take care of it. And if, like I said, if anybody runs into any struggles, they can reach me, my mobile number. And so Now, the next question comes from Shang Samoa Alfonso. Alfonso, what a cool name. Thanks for all you do. I really love what I do helping the community. You have experience in finance banking, great. What skills should you focus on the cloud technology? So Shang Samoa, could you tell me a little bit more about what you're doing on the bank and as well as what you'd like to do on the cloud? And then I can help guide you. So Shang, if you can tell me about your background and experience, I'll be in a perfect position to assist you. While I'm waiting to hear about your background, I'll take Devin T's quick question. What are the DevOps tools you have to learn to become a cloud architect? Devin, I don't know what you want to do on the cloud. I know a tremendous number of senior and principal cloud architects that know absolutely zero about DevOps and will never learn. I know senior and principal cloud architects working for all the big companies that have no programming skills, no scripting skills, no DevOps tools, no SysOps skills, and they have great jobs and they're incredibly hireable. Devin, it matters what you want to do. If you want to be a DevOps engineer, great. What I will tell you, and then before I get to Em's question, I'll answer that next, is you have two choices when you can approach your career. You can be one of these people that knows a little bit about everything, but not enough about anything to be truly effective. And that's the person that's the 10x AWS certified. They're learning DevOps, SysOps, databases, networking, there's that. And you can get these jobs and there's nothing wrong with them. You will never be highly paid and your chances of getting hired will be much less. And you're going to have to be an expert on 1,000,001 things, which is impossible. So Devin, you've got a choice. You can pick a focus area like architecture or cloud security or DevOps or SysOps or any of these things, automation, data science, and you can find a great job there. See, I come from medicine. In medicine, we spend upwards of 12 years learning one topic. We have upwards of 10 different kinds of cardiologists to work on something the size of a human heart, which is the size of a fist. And when inside of 12 years of school, we've only begun our education. I spent 10,000 hours of just BGP. I get job offers every day to be a BGP guru in addition to just cloud stuff that I get. The point is it's all based upon your specific and your knowledge and your depth of knowledge. So Devin, if you've got more questions, I can answer them. While you think about that, M has a question. Are your programs vendor neutral or is it all learning through all AWS? M, I do nothing that's all AWS. Everything that we focus on is about learning how the cloud works. That's why we start with the technologies that enable the cloud. That's why we then have students build all the underlying technologies. Then after we do the underlying technologies, they build the cloud, then they do architectural case studies. And then on the architectural case studies, they take it, they design it at the component level, meaning the server means virtual machine, block storage means this type of block storage, object storage means this type of storage. Then they put it to the AWS cloud and another cloud. Why do I make them do it all in two different clouds? If you're an architect, especially in an environment where we're dealing with a lot of hybrid clouds and multi-clouds, you have to be able to understand how all the cloud works. If you learn it our way, and you learn that, okay, I need a virtual machine, then it doesn't matter if it's an EC2 instance or something else. If you learn it our way, where you learn the components of the architecture, not specific any one thing, then you're in great shape. Because if you need a NoSQL database, it's like, okay, Google Bigtable, DynamoDB, I'm going to build an Apache Cassandra. So I never do anything ever that's just AWS. Everything that we do is 100% on making you a cloud computing expert. And if you're a cloud computing expert, you can learn anybody's cloud in minutes and go transition to anywhere. So, Em, I don't know if I answered your question. If you've got any other questions, please answer. And then while I'm waiting for an answer, Devin, I'm glad you understood my explanation. Really, it's about determine what you want to do, Devin, and for all of you, figure exactly what you love. And when you know exactly what you love, focus your efforts, your studying, your learning, your resume, your trading, 100%, all of it towards achieving that goal, and you'll get there. So I see Em says, thank you. If we purchase a program, do we get lifetime access? So Em, it depends on which program you're purchasing. The students in the program have complete and total unlimited access to the content in the training program, and basically, realistically speaking, during the lifetime access to the content, we constantly upgrade it, and students will get access as long as they desire. We do give server access to our servers, which we limit to 16 weeks. We limit the server access to 16 weeks for the following reasons. We want to be certain that we have enough time for the students doing things, but we try and make our course as cheap as possible. Like I said, for the Cloud Architect Career Development Program, we like to try and price our course in a way that if somebody gets their job one day sooner, it paid for our entire program. We're hoping that we can make a several $1 million difference in someone's career over the course of their career by teaching emotional intelligence, executive training, presence, leadership, interviewing skills. But we want to be a payback period of 1 to 2 days earlier. So we have absolute lifetime access to the content. We limit access to the servers for 16 weeks. In the Cloud Architect Career Development Program, we also have group coaching calls. People can stay in the group coaching calls, as long as they need. We say 16 weeks. If we have someone that sticks around for 8 months or so, the group coaching calls, that's fine. After that, we have things that we do for people that are developing in their careers for longer term. But you've got lifetime access to all the content in the training program, and we update the content. You'll get lessons constantly. You'll have access to us for the group coaching calls. We say 16 weeks, but if it takes you 6 months, 8 months, a year to get through, that's fine. But access to the servers is limited to 16 weeks. Same thing goes with the other programs. You'll always have access to the content. You'll always have access to the training, but access to the servers is limited to 16 weeks. If we didn't limit access to servers for 16 weeks, we'd have to charge 5 and 10 times more for the course because I've got to buy servers to support everybody's needs. So we try and do that, but you have lifetime access to all the training and content that's in the training program, and we constantly upgrade that. So I hope I answered your question there, Em. And if you've got more questions, you can call me. I've listed my numbers. Okay, Sri Kuraman. Okay, what approach is you moving towards the cloud? I'm sorry, I'm leaning forward to my screen so I can see it. Should you take, if somebody is a development programming application architect, like a Java developer, Linux and DevOps, well, do you want to code on the cloud? Because if you want to code on the cloud, it's not going to take that much of a shift for you. Or do you want to do something different on the cloud? I think that because that's the question we have to ask for you. Sri Kumaran, if you can let me know what your goal is on the cloud, like if it's just coding or if it's more of an architecture thing, let me know exactly what you want, exactly what your background is, exactly what your experience is, and then I'll give you some guidance. Build cloud native application systems. So you still want to be on the application side. Is that correct? And how many years of experience do you have working in coding? And then I'll also give you some perspectives on building cloud native application systems because you've got 10 years of programming experience. Fantastic. So there's, realistically speaking, 2 types of common cloud architectures that you can use. There's the lift and shift, which is basically where you take your virtual machines and port them to the cloud, which most everyone is doing. And then there's the building cloud native, which almost nobody is doing. So I'll give you the advantage of the lift and shift versus cloud native. The advantage of lift and shift, which is what most organizations are doing, and they're doing it for the following reasons, is basically you can take your virtual machine that you're running in your data center, migrate to the cloud, use the cloud's network, use the cloud's efficiency, and it's often cheaper. By doing that, you're moving to the cloud, you're getting the benefits of auto scaling so you can right size your equipment, you're gaining a lot of agility, reduced CapEx, and then some so reduced capital expense, some increased operational expenses, and I'll get to your question in a minute. So by doing that, you actually get that. So you shift from capital cost to operational cost, you get a lot more agility in the cloud. It's great. Organizations like that because if they put their things in the data center or AWS, for example, and I'll get to you in a moment, but when you put your things in the data center or when in the cloud, it all works. It's simple. There's no coding. There's no expense to code it. There's one other thing that really matters, which is why organizations are doing lift and shift. For those of you that have basically that have had cable companies or phone companies or organizations that you work with, and as soon as they're your customer, they raise your rates and they become incredibly expensive, that can happen with the cloud too. And organizations know this. They know if they take their whole data center and they put it in a virtual machine on the AWS cloud, if the AWS decides to raise the rates 40% and it doesn't make sense, or they have a challenge with AWS, like AWS doesn't like what they're doing, or to kick them out, for example, they can literally lift their virtual machines, move it to another cloud in minutes, and be up on another cloud. So that's the advantages of lift and shift. Most people right now are doing lift and shift. They are not doing cloud native. They want to know that they can migrate back to the data center they need or go to another cloud if they need. Lift and shift makes a tremendous amount of sense to me. Cloud native is something very different. Cloud native is basically where you're writing code directly to be uploaded. It's going to run in a serverless architecture. Most are not doing this. The second you put all of your assets and your code on a serverless infrastructure and you refactor your code and you rewrite it, it's like putting all your eggs in the cable company. All of a sudden, your cable TV rate goes up 50%, and you are done. You are in trouble. You can't get your stuff out quickly. It's going to take you millions and millions and millions of dollars and 6 months to a year or years to get all your stuff off of the cloud if your vendor doesn't behave. So as an executive, would I be building cloud native applications? The answer is no way. I'd be doing lift and shift until we have more knowledge of the cloud and more things. But some organizations will do cloud native. So if you want to do cloud native, realize that there's less opportunity there because most people are not doing it. That doesn't mean it's not a good thing to do. Being a specialist is great. But if I was going to do cloud native, I would definitely get a certified solution architect professional to show that you have knowledge of the actual cloud. You got a strong software background, so that would be good. It would be nice if you had some Python scripting skills too. Do you have any Python scripting skills in addition to your other programming, Sri Kurman? Because if you did, that would make it because if you're going to be on the software side, that means you need to know the code, and it also means that you need to know scripting languages. So if you've got that certified solution architect professional, and you've got that kind of scripting background and programming background, and you know how to use tools like Python, that'll open doors for machine learning environments too, and you should be in a good position. It would not also hurt in your particular case if you had one of those professional grade DevOps, SysOps type roles for you, because you're really going to be on that software side and you want to be there. So certified solution architect professional at a minimum, and then maybe a professional level DevOps or SysOps or something that's going to be similar to cloud software, though it's not exactly. Keep your programming skills and you should be in some great shape. Assuming you've got good executive presence, communication skills, interviewing skills, those kind of things. That always matters. Did I answer your question there, sir? Okay, good. Al S, is it realistic / possible to start working as a freelancer and get cloud architect security jobs with no experience? I did, and many of my students have. Assuming one has the desired industry certification and has the skills. That's the key, the skills to back up the cert. What type of clients would you target? For example, small, medium enterprises, I imagine larger corporations. So Al, what I would say the best thing to do when you're coming in this from the certification, from this perspective, is if you have no experience, and I don't really believe there's no such thing as no experience. I'd like to know what your actual last job actually is, because in many cases, the last job will carry over. What I mean by carry over is, for example, I used to practice medicine. When you practice medicine, patient comes into the office. They have a complaint. I don't feel well. You ask them questions. You make an assessment or a diagnosis, and you build them a plan. The plan is medication. Here's what an architect does. They meet with the client. The client has some challenges, just like the patient. They ask some questions, and then they design a plan. And the plan is called an architecture. So with a doctor, you meet a patient, you ask questions, you make a diagnosis or plan. In architecture, you meet with the client, you make a diagnosis, you build an architecture. It's the same process. So depending upon what your last job is, that could basically mean you've basically been working as an architect and didn't know it. And some of the keys to actually helping my clients get their jobs is to look at their backgrounds and show how their backgrounds are the same as their new job. And we'll love to do that with the hiring manager. It's been very helpful to my students over the years. So I'd like to know what you're doing. If you had the desired industry certifications and you had perfect soft skills, emotional intelligence, interview techniques, sales skills, and these skills are really important when you're starting your own business, and you knew how to build your personal brand like we work with our students, and you're building a good personal, professional brand, everything about you is great. It is completely possible to start working as a freelancer and taking on smaller jobs. when you take on smaller jobs, initially you're typically dealing with smaller to mid-sized businesses, and they're going to be working with you because they're going to connect you based on liking you. So when I talk about likability and when I talk about emotional intelligence and executive presence, it's all to basically help you sell yourself into getting the job or getting that job interview. And these things are essential. So make sure you get that. But it's completely possible, assuming you know how to sell yourself, you know how to sell your capabilities, you know how to improve the environment for others. And I've gotten lots of people to fresh tech jobs, fresh out of college, career transitioners, and or anywhere in between. So it's totally feasible to do it. I'd start with larger corporations if I was going to do some work. I mean, it's smaller corporations, but you can definitely do it. I've done it, and lots of my students have over the years. I have time for one more question. Does anybody else have any more questions? And if you like this content, if you could leave a like, it'll signal it'll signal the algorithm so that more people can see our content. The more people that see our content, the more free services we can do, the more we can help the world. So if you like our content, if you could please leave a like. And if you're not a subscriber, you can subscribe to the channel and share with others information about our channel, like the free AWS certification training that we just put out the other day. We're trying to offer as much as we can for the cloud architect community. Anyone else have any questions? I have time for one more. Okay, well, it was incredibly wonderful spending the morning with you. If any of you guys have any questions to me, I'll leave my number, even though I've done it before. So, and from there, I'll be able to assist anybody. Otherwise, it's a real pleasure to speak to you. I look forward to speaking to you in another YouTube Live. I'll probably do another one next Wednesday, but tomorrow we've got a call on how to get your first tech job if anybody's interested. Actually, before I leave, I probably should drop a link to that as well. So if anybody is interested in this, actually, maybe that is some free training options. I'm assuming you guys all have my book. You're on my YouTube channel. One of the things that I found very helpful in my career was teaching my students how to actually act in a business meeting could get them promoted many times. So I wrote a free meeting guide, so I'm going to pop that there for you as well. Thank you all so much. If any of you have any questions, just give me a call. And I look forward to seeing you all very soon. Take care, everyone.